Thank you, Mike. This really is an honor. 3 years. Yeah, it's a big deal. Mike, you So, I was in a rehab and I got out, and one of the first people I've actually became friends with and get to know was Mike and Sam. And that's all because of Big D, Big Dan. Let me not put that in initials. It's Mike, you've always been steady, man. I think that's what I like about you. Someone said you don't lose your cool. You're always, when I go to talk to you, I know who I'm talking to. There's no other person, and that is solid, because most people are roller coasters. Even in sobriety, we're roller coasters. I know I can be. So that's very heartwarming when I go talk to you. I'm going to get the same person every time. I love you, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, saying that, I was not his first pick, but this is God's plan. So I'm happy to be here. I got kind of ambushed last week, in a sense. Well, my name's Ryan Gant. I am a true alcoholic. My sobriety date is, like I said long ago, 6/23/18. I have a home group, which is this one. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor, all that stuff. I try to stay in the center of AA as much as I can. And the reason I do that, and it makes total sense, I listened to a speaker I went to, and he said, if you're in the middle of something, it's hard not to fall in love with it. So the more I'm in the middle of AA, the more I'm going to fall in love with it. My home life and everything starting as a kid was really good. I mean, I had I was an 80s kid, so I definitely got hit with a stick, got hit with a hand, got hit with a paddle. I got hit with all that stuff. But none of that made me alcoholic. I got screamed at. But saying all that, that's a normal life. Because as I say that, this wasn't a daily thing. I mean, I'm ADD, HEA, whatever it is. I was a wild little boy, so I needed that, in a sense. But coming up, I mean, drinking wasn't a big part of my family. Like, I can tell you, I didn't see my mother drink until a year before she divorced my dad, and I understand why she's drinking, because it's my father. But saying that, my dad and my family would get together, they would drink, and the drink was the fun. It was the party. They didn't drink on a daily basis, but when they did, they were going to have a good time. My dad has a very large family, so we would have big Thanksgivings and Christmases, and my grandmother had this large piece of property with a field out in front of it, and I'm probably 5 or 6 or somewhere around there, and they'd get out there and play football, and one of them would hit someone too hard, and then they'd end up in the emergency room breaking each other's nose. This was family stuff for me, and I thought this was what fun looked like. You get drunk, get rowdy, and things happen. But went through that. So there wasn't a lot of alcohol drinking in my family, but there was definitely some heavy drinkers. And these heavy drinkers, like it says in the book, look like alcoholics, but they're not. But that kept me out for a long time, because my dad, my brother, and my uncle that I would drink with, we all could put down a handle each and then go on to the next day. The issue is those 3 would quit. The next morning, I'm waking up wanting to do it again. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. I thought that's what you did. I mean, I was in my 20s. That's what 20-year-olds do. Because I'm very reserved. So growing up, elementary, middle school, and all that, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was very reserved. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, so I kind of felt always different. We raised chickens and pigs. That is not normal for Columbia County, so I was different that way. I had ADD, I had dyslexia, so I think it was like 3rd grade, I got put into a separate class. So I'm different again. I'm always different. I'm not like the other people. I did that all the way up through high school, going to the separate class, and it just always made me feel separated and different. But I started playing sports, and that was probably my first addiction in a sense, because I had nothing else to do. So I started playing soccer, and I played soccer like I drank and did drugs. I really did. I mean, I did it 24/7 all the time. That's all I wanted to do. If I wasn't doing that, I felt off. And it's my personality. It's who I still am today. If I'm not doing something, I feel off. So I did that for years. And I hung around people that did drugs and drank through high school, but I did not do it. I didn't want to do it. I had my drug at that moment. The reason is I had never really put it in my body, because my dad, my age, I'm sure they still do it, would make it funny to give me drinks of beer or liquor, and I hated the taste. I did not understand why anybody would drink that. Because the reason being is because when I would taste it, I wasn't getting enough for the craving or the effects to happen. I was 18 years old, and I was playing soccer 10 months out of a year, and the 2 months I wasn't playing were not together. That's what I did. I lived it. I had finally somebody that's in the program talk me into smoking a joint with them, and from that day forward, I never wanted to play soccer again. All I wanted to do was dance with Mary Jane. That was it. I did not care. I still proceeded to have to play soccer because I had this image of a soccer player, but I didn't want to do that. All I wanted to do was smoke weed. That was it. I mean, I was the essential stereotype of a stoner my senior year of high school. Really all the way until I was like 22 or something. That's all I did. I loved it. But my addiction is aggressive and it grows. Eventually, smoking was not worth it. It did not create the effect as it did in the beginning. I was always chasing something that wasn't there. And in my 20s, I went into opiates. Of course, I fell in love with that. Whoever does that really doesn't. It's hard not to fall in love with that stuff. And my life, in my 20s, I'm thinking I'm managing life, and this is what I'm supposed to do. I had my own place, my own apartment. I did what I wanted to do. It was really recreational in a sense, because I would do these things on the weekend. I would drink alcohol to intensify my opiates, because I didn't really want to drink alcohol. And this proceeded, man, and I would do things that normal people wouldn't do. I would take things, and I'm not a blackout drinker, so that's the thing. Like, through my whole drinking career, I could pretty much remember almost everything. I was not the blackout. But I would take things that would make me blackout, and then I'd wake up in weird places and be like, what the hell? I mean, why am I in the Highlander? I don't even drink beer. Why would I be in the Highlander at 4 in the morning? That is not me. And all 3 times this happened within a couple of months of each other, I woke up on the same damn post, waking up saying the same damn thing. And it baffled me. And every time it was like, I'm going to take this and stay home, and then I'd wake up there. Or I woke up on a stairwell one time sleeping. It was just like, normal people would have been like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. But not me. I'm just trying to find that high, that comfortable feeling it's like a 30-minute period that you can get at. But the problem is, this 30-minute period I aim for, I overshoot that damn thing every time. I'll hit that 30-minute period. Instead of lasting 30 minutes, it only lasts 15. And the next time it only lasts 10. And the next time it lasts 5. To eventually the end, I never, ever got to that period. because the progression just kept coming and coming. Man, I went through, I was in my mid-20s. I started working for the union, got a good job. Threw that away. I learned how to shoot up stuff, so that didn't work. I did that for several years, and no one knew. Like, I remember talking to a good friend of mine, that Brandon S., and I was telling him about that, and I was like, we went on this camping trip. If anybody knows his story, I was doing that way before him. And like, I'm in a tent doing this while everybody else is out having a good time. I'm in the tent just doing what I do, and they don't know what I'm doing. And you know, I thought this was normal. The thing is, like it says in the book, anything can become normal when you say it becomes normal. One day, you know, the day I decided to shoot up, the day before I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't. I would never done that. I am not that person. My morals are too good. I am not doing that. The very next day, I'm really sick, and I'm like, that's a good idea. I don't have any money. This is the way you do it. Where did my morals go? They don't exist, is what happens. The alcoholism in me basically sets the bar. I put a bar here. I'm not doing that. Well, maybe I'll put the bar here and I won't do it again. And then so on. And that bar just kept moving and moving and moving in my life. I didn't really have any consequences. I mean, at that time period, I got arrested, had some serious charges. I have a great enabler called my dad. He paid a lawyer a lot of money and I got out of it. Then a couple of years later, I got a DUI. That's literally my consequences for an 18-year run of something I should have went to jail for many times. I was very fortunate in that sense. The reason I'm saying that is because jail and consequences do not describe my alcoholism. You don't need any of that to be an alcoholic. Page 44 is my favorite spot. Like when you're talking to a new person, like they don't know. It's like, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, you answer that yes or no. Well, hell no, I can't quit. If when you are drinking, could you have little control over the amount you take? Hell no. Well, the issue is in this book, if I answer yes to either one of those, I'm probably an alcoholic as it goes on. I answered yes to both of those. No, I wasn't quitting. A day was too long. And if I controlled, I was miserable. Absolutely miserable. Being at a place and just knowing I can only drink a little, all I could think about was the obsession to leave so I could get home and drink the way I wanted to drink. So I did all that, and the thing is, you know, all that drug use I was doing, I never really liked. The thing is my alcoholism was wanting to change the way I feel. So I was doing things, and I love telling this story because it's just insanity, and I did it for like 3 days straight. I'm in a hotel room at the Parkway Inn beside the T-Bones, and we're making shake and bake, and I'm okay. Like, I'm doing this and I'm okay. Bottle pops. All of a sudden, I'm not okay, and I am a window watcher now, okay? It was like that quickly, and I proceeded, so I'm short. Well, the thing is, the peephole's right here, okay? So for me to look out of a peephole, I have to stand on my toes. I proceeded to look out of this peephole for 3 days straight. The only time I walked away was to put more stuff in my body. That was it. Yeah, body, that. Body, that. That was it. What insane person does that? And I don't even like that stuff. Like, I absolutely hate that. I'm a sleeper. I don't want to be awake. But it was all there was available, and it's what I was going to do. Because it didn't matter what it was. I wanted to change the way I felt. As I proceeded there for 3 days, finally, when we had to go somewhere and do something, I could not bend my toes back down. And they were purple and red and bloody, and I probably would have lost them if I continued to do that. That is insanity. That's like the step one Major insanity. I was completely insane. Step 2, I didn't know what to do. And I did this over and over and over. After that, I ended up living in a shack. My daughter's mother, she was an old high school girlfriend I had like a freshman year. We hadn't seen each other in years. We proceeded to start talking, and I found out she had a place to stay, and I didn't want to live in a shack. And I proceeded to live with her. This is the other insanity that's not normal. There was no running water in this place, and it was in a nice neighborhood in Rivershire. Because, she never said she's an alcoholic. I don't care, and I will say that, because there's no way her and I lived together, and what we did, there was not alcoholism in this house. We lived there for several years, and all we did was go I had this quote-unquote lawn care. It was called Best Image Lawn Care. Yeah. And me showing up, mapped out, drunk, whatever it was, and I'm the Best Image Lawn Care. I had a truck that was beat the hell and back, and I would only come cut your grass if you were promising to pay me before I left, because I had to go get my fix. And I wouldn't come cut your grass if you didn't have that. And I did that for several years. Go through all that, man. With that relationship, things happened in that relationship I didn't think I'd ever do, and I truly regret that. But the thing is my daughter was born in this relationship, which is a miracle. Supposedly she wasn't supposed to get pregnant. I know you've all heard that, but she got pregnant again. I don't really know how that works. It's a miracle is what that is. So I have a daughter now, and in the book it's talking about frothy emotional appeal. If I wasn't a real alcoholic and I was a hard drinker, my daughter would have been a sufficient reason to quit. She was not. Not at all. Put it this way, it was 4 years later before I got sober when she was born, so she was not a reason for me to get sober. She was a good reason, just not efficient, is what I should say. We split up. I went on. I was able to put on masks, go buy decent clothes. I get a job I still have today somehow. Don't know how the hell they kept me on. I worked there, and I'm good at it. And it says in here, alcoholics, we can do anything if we put our mind to. I got this job, and I am an alcoholic at this time. I am drinking fully. Well, I'm going to rush to the end. So I got full custody of my daughter in August 2017. The funny thing is, you think I'd get that, I'd slow down a little. It ramped up the alcoholism. My alcoholism kicked up. I started drinking more. I literally went to work, came home, and got drunk. I was able to teach a 4-year-old how to take care of herself, to a point, how to feed herself, because the only thing I was going to do is, because I got to say this, in my 20s it was drugs, in my 30s I went to alcohol, and I never really wanted to touch drugs again. Not that I didn't, but my disease is alcoholism. So when it switched on me like that, it was, I felt like it was more acceptable because it was legal. I'd go to the store and get it. I might be there at 8:30 waiting for you to open at 9, but it was legal to buy. So I felt different about that. My last several months, man, I started realizing I had a problem. And the problem was I didn't know how to drink with control. Not that I couldn't drink. That was where it started. And that was like God doing something for me. I started realizing that you're not supposed to go to work drunk when you drive a truck all day. You're not supposed to just lock your child at home and drive to the liquor store. But these are all things I did, and I did them on a regular. I don't know how I didn't get a DUI. I don't know how I stayed with this job. I mean, I started the job bloated because I was already in alcoholism, so they always thought I looked that way. There was no difference in me. But I went to my in the book where it says takes heavy sedatives. I started thinking I needed something changed. I went to my doctor and asked for Klonopin. Like, that was a freaking smart thing to do. She gave me 1 week's worth. I never once not drank on them. Literally the first one I was drinking behind it. It was just a ruse. You know, it was me lying to myself saying I'm going to get these and get off drinking and only need a week's worth. She gave me Ambien. I will never take that stuff again. That was so ridiculous. When you wake up and you have phone calls and you do not remember who you talked to and why you were talking to these people and what you said, I was a bad alcoholic, but I was smart enough never to ask my doctor for that one again. But I went to my job, like this is like November. I went to him and said, hey man, I got a drinking problem. I need to take off a week. I'm going to fix this. I got this because I thought I had control. I thought I had power. I'm going to fix this. It did not fix itself. I went on a 3-week bender a couple of months later. I literally called in every day, and this is how good manipulative I am. I told him my daughter got the flu. She did not. Then I told him I got the flu. I did not. And then I ended up in the hospital for 5 days from alcohol poisoning. I just told them it was from the flu. They did not fire me. I sit down and sometime in March, and they sit me down, and they're like, Brian, you've only been to work for 40 days, and it's like the end of March. I don't know how this company kept me. The thing is, the company saw something in me I didn't see in myself. Because when I did come to work, I was productive. But when I was at work, the only thing I was thinking of was getting home and have a drink because the obsession of the mind was intense. When am I going to get home? When am I going to get home? Dude, I was talking about how that 30 minutes went to 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So when they said that, I knew I had a vacation to go to. They needed to be paid for by them because I had vacation time. I white-knuckled it until May. I somewhat held it together. Went to San Diego, spent $600 at the edible place because I'd never been to one. Don't remember this trip too much. I was drinking a handle of vodka a day and taking massive amounts of edibles. And that was like into June. And when I came back to work, I knew something was different because I proceeded basically the last month of drinking 24/7. And I did not want to do this. I couldn't stop myself, but I didn't want to do it. It's the disease. I couldn't stop myself. And it proceeded to where I needed, this is the lie. I need to drink so I can go to sleep. I drink enough, pass out for a couple hours, wake up, do it again, wake up, do it again, then get up and go to work. And it was a vicious cycle. That's all I did. I went back to the hospital one of the last times. And like a good alcoholic, I'd been drinking. I drove myself to the hospital. Parked my car, walked up there, I had chest pains. They took me right back. I was like, I need a detox. I got to go to work in a couple of days. This is literally what I said to these doctors. That was like a Friday night. Was in there for a couple of days. Sunday, I said, y'all got to let me go. I got to go to work tomorrow. You know, this is the arrogance I had, thinking I was going to control it. All I had to do was get a little bit of Ambien, whatever that shit is. I mean, whatever they give you in there. I got some of that, and the thing is, I had no power. I had absolutely no power. I literally left the hospital, drove to the Golden Liquor Shop on Bel Air Road, picked up a fifth, went home, and got drunk. Now, I just put myself in the hospital because of this. It's the insanity of all that. It's insane. I think God did this for me because I'm hard-headed. I can be egotistical. I didn't know anything about AA. The only thing I knew about AA at this time was I had a buddy that was sober that I used to see in Sonic's parking lots, and I looked at him much worse than me. And this guy was sober, and he had given me numbers to call, and I would call him. He began cussing me out because I wouldn't listen, obviously. You know, I was like, I needed to work out. I need to do this. I need to do that. Then I would proceed to call Brendan and Patrick. and cry and whine on the phone, well, I need to do something different. And they'd say, you need to go to AA. And I'd be like, fuck AA, I'm doing AA. That shit ain't going to work for me. Not knowing they were roommates. But I would call them back to back. So I get a laugh out of that each time now because they tell me, yeah, you'd call this one and then you'd call that one. And we'd sit on the couch and just listen to you on speakerphone. And you know, me saying that just brought up a guy. Like, why was I so lucky that God proceeded to push me into the right direction to try to find help? Because I was given one of these guys that was just like me, that would call me, tell me all these plans, and I'd tell him what to do, and he didn't, and he ended up dying. He died, hemorrhage in the intestines, gastrohemistry. This guy would call me all the time. So, you know, why am I lucky? Don't know, don't care, actually. I'm here. Well, I went to the hospital that day, and I got drunk that night. My mom came over, and I did some things and said some things to her that I thought I would never do. And I've never done again, and I never did it before. Called the cops on myself. I somehow did that. But the next morning, it was God. God touched me. I woke up the next morning and knew I couldn't do nothing. Knew I couldn't do nothing. I needed help. I called my buddy. I said, man, I'm thinking about these 30-day places. He started laughing at me. He goes, you ain't going to do no 30-day place. Just a joke. He said, I know you. You're the real deal. I know what we've been through. I know what you do. He said, you need long term. And I was like, 6 fucking months? What the fuck are you talking? I ain't doing that shit. What happened was I was a broke alcoholic. My parents were paying for my way, and the 6-month place was cheaper than the 30-day place. So they wanted to get rid of me because I was a nuisance, I was a bother, so 6 months was a vacation for them. My dad is, he can be an asshole, but he's a saint. He took my daughters. I still had full custody of my daughter in all this time. He took my daughter, took him with him and lived with him so I could go to rehab. And I'm in this rehab. It is the first or second night. I'm having a mental breakdown on the top bunk. It's pitch black. And all I can think about is I need to get to my daughter. Like I was something helping her before. You know, I wasn't doing anything for my daughter. But for some reason, when you're new in sobriety, you got all this shit to do that you weren't doing before. But you got to do it now. And I'm in this rehab. And I'm wigging out. And this was literally I had taken my 1, 2, 3 right there. I'm graced with that because my daughter showed up on this bed and had a conversation with me. And it was like me talking to Mike right here. I was not having alcoholic deliriums. It was nothing like that. This was like God saying, hey, this is what you love. Use this as motivation. And we had a long conversation, and then I felt so at peace. I'd never been at peace before. And I laid down to go to sleep. Well, while I was drinking, I would try to ignore my daughter, and she would sit over on the couch and be like, Daddy, 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 Daddy. And I'd try to be like, what, darling? What? You know, and she'd do this for a while. But all of a sudden, when I did that, I woke back up. And it was like a God kicking me in my butt going, this isn't going to be easy. And she was sitting there doing that. And she didn't say anything else. And I jumped off the bunk, I ran out of there crying, and proceeded this path. I was very fortunate at the place I was at. They taught this big book. They said, this is what does it. Follow this, do that. I proceeded to do the steps. I didn't know what I was doing. I tell y'all the truth, it was probably 1.5 years before my mind even cleared. So my first step work, I couldn't tell you what I put on there unless I read the paper. I was so foggy. I was very unhappy person. I hadn't smiled in years. 3 months in, started smiling. And this is where I knew the disease was aggressive. I'd been separated for 3 months, went on a pass, went to a Cheddar's. I I'm in a Cheddar's, and this person walks by, and that's so beautiful. The drinks with the colors, and it's sweating, and it's like, and I'm like staring at this and salivating. Now here, y'all, I'm a straight liquor drinker. I do not do mixed drinks, but that looked very tasty. 3 months separated, and I'm having these thoughts. And if I had been released at that moment and been on my own, I would have drank. There's no doubt in my mind. There was nothing that was going to stop me. I had no power. I had not reached the power to help me not to have a drink. I had had flashes of moments to encourage me and push me on, but I hadn't done the whole program yet. So when I got back, I dove into this. I jumped into 10 and 11 on a daily basis. I literally proceeded to wake up early and have my moment with God, because this is about getting in touch with your higher power. That's all this is about, is getting right with something bigger than you. And I proceeded to do that. I proceeded to do what they said. Pray. Don't know what I'm praying for. Talk to God. Don't know what I'm talking to him about, but did it. Got out of there. I literally got out of there, and they said, get a home group, do that. I did all that. I jumped out of that place like I had never been in AA. Here I am in 6 months doing, 6 months, how many meetings is that? It's thousands of meetings, so we'd have like 3 a day. Proceeded to go to 3 to 2 meetings a day because I had nothing to do, and I found this group. And this group had the same vibe as the place I went to. And I said, this is where I'm going to pick. I passed several places to get here. Started doing what they said, found a sponsor. Didn't always listen to my sponsor. Would tell my sponsor what I did after I did it, because that whole thing of it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. That shit don't really work, but I tried to use that on him. And now today, man, my life is great. It is not easy. My daughter's mother died of cirrhosis of the liver from this disease. If you want to see what I want to call an alcoholic, she died from this disease. God came to me, pushed me away from alcohol, set me on this path. She died in 2020. So basically a year and a half ago, she passed away. Well, he set me on that path earlier than that. He knew what was going to happen. He knew that Julie was not going to make it. She wasn't going to do what was right. And it's her choice. So, I have full custody. Can you imagine my daughter living with her mother and then that happening and then having to come live with me? That's God doing for me and my daughter what we could not do for ourselves. He is amazing. He, she, it, whatever it is, I say God, I don't care what you call it. Did all that for me. And it's been a rough year, not necessarily for me, but for her. I'm a father. I'm supposed to know what to do. I definitely don't know what to do. I just constantly say, did you pray? Do you want a hug? Do you want a kiss? I don't know. I did not have loving parents, so all this is kind of new to me. But it has been really good. I came out and I was making less money than I was when I went into the same job. And I'm bitching about this. Guess what? God didn't let me go without when I was using. I was alive. I always had something to eat. I always had shelter. Why is he going to let me go out when I'm doing what's right? I had more money in my savings account than I did then. And I'm making more money now, years later, than I did then. It's because I'm doing the next right thing. I just want to say this. I was reading this the other day, and it really does pop out, man. And when we became alcoholics crushed by a self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade. We had to fiercely face the proposal that God is everything or he is nothing. God is or he is not. The thing is, I did everything I could to get my next high, to get my next drink. I jumped, I hid, I stole. I did all this stuff for alcohol and drugs. Why can't I do this for God? It's very simple. This is a lot easier than that. That's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me.